To recover her city's lost power source, Kara Zor-El travels to Earth and battles an evil witch. Listen as we discuss the passing fad of fidget spinners, where not to place your water pipes, and an impractical flying position. Then we find out if 1984's Supergirl stands the test of time.
Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? James says gladiator with the glut, and Alan says as a father blah blah. It's the test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today?
Hello everyone and welcome to the Test of Time. I am James Brief and joining me as always, my buddy and pal and the director of this podcast, Alan Noah.
Hi James, how you doing?
I'm good.
So this episode comes out on July 10th, 2026. Our very first episode, Independence Day, was released on July 8th, 2016. So James, we have passed the decade mark. That's mind-blowing. 10 years. I mean, yeah, we just did the whole thing for 500, so we don't have to go down memory lane again, but damn.
10 years ago it's a lifetime ago. I think different things than I did in 2016. So these are the opinions as of July 2026.
Right. In so many ways, the world was a very, very different place when we started this podcast, politically, culturally, pop culturally, in my life, personally, your life, I'm sure the lives of our listeners. And yeah, to your point, our opinions are always current as of when we record. And yeah, things can change day to day, hour to hour, week to week. I mean, that's one of the nice things about podcasts is you see when the episode came out, so you know from what time we were speaking.
Yeah, I mean, in 2016, they didn't even know about fidget spinners, Al. Fidget spinners.
Really?
Yeah, it was actually a 2017 thing, predominantly.
Oh.
Obviously, that's not the example.
Yeah, I could think of a couple other things that were a little more notable than fidget spinners, but you know what? I appreciate that that's where your mind went.
That's the joke. But I mean, anything. I mean, things really have evolved, even movies today. 2026 has a different standard than it did in 2016.
Sure. But let's get into Supergirl. We are talking about the 1984 movie Supergirl because there's a 2026 Supergirl out now. I haven't seen it yet. I really want to. I know it didn't do gangbusters at the box office. I'm hoping it'll still be in theaters for a bit so I can see it in the theater. So I had seen Supergirl 1984 once before. I remember renting it as a kid and thinking it was pretty bad. Was that your experience as well?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay.
I also remember thinking as a kid that Helen Slater was so beautiful. Mm-hmm. And I had also seen her. What other movie do you think I would have seen her in the mid-'80s?
Oh, I mean, I know she was in City Slickers, but that was 90 or 91.
No, I saw her in another Michael J. Fox film.
Oh, Secret of My Success.
That's right. And it was a way for the Salkinds. They still had the rights to Superman and presumably all of the tangential characters.
The Super Family.
Yeah, they had the Super Family. Christopher Reeve was going to make a cameo, but then he didn't.
Well, at first he was going to be a big part of the movie. Actually, before that, Supergirl was going to be introduced in Superman 3, and then that storyline got cut to have more computers or robots or Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor.
And then they were going to make the Supergirl movie be about Supergirl rescuing Superman because Superman had been captured by this witch. And then Christopher Reeve wasn't going to star in it. And then maybe he would show up for a cameo. And then he didn't even want to do that. So they had to rework the script several times. But instead of talking about what this movie wasn't, let's talk about what it is. So this movie is about Kara Zor-El, also known as Supergirl. Kara is from Argo City, which survived the destruction of Krypton because it's in inner space, not outer space. Whatever that means. But that's according to Zoltar, who created the city and its power source, the Omega Hedron. When the Omega Hedron is accidentally lost, Kara follows it so she can save her home. The Omega Hedron lands on Earth, where it falls into the hands of a witch named Selena, who uses its power to perform increasingly dangerous magical feats and attempt to rule the world. On Earth, Kara discovers she has extraordinary powers similar to her famous cousin, Superman. Kara enrolls in an all-girls boarding school, where she adopts the identity Linda Lee, becomes roommates with Lucy Lane, Lois's sister, and meets a hunky landscaper named Ethan. Selena also becomes enamored with Ethan and casts a love spell on him, but it backfires and Ethan falls for Linda Lee. Selena and Supergirl fight over him, and Selena is able to trap Supergirl in the Phantom Zone. There, Supergirl once again encounters Zoltar, who helps her escape. Back on Earth, Supergirl defeats Selena, recovers the Omega Hedron, and rescues Lucy and Ethan before returning home to Argo City. So I know that this movie was a bomb because there is no Supergirl 2, and it was after this movie that the Salkinds sold their rights for the Superman franchise to Canon, who then made Superman 4, the Quest for Peace. But I don't know, give me some depressing numbers about this movie, James.
Yeah, the movie opened November 21st, 1984. It actually opened at number 1, so there's some good news with $5.7 million. And it wound up ending up with $14 million domestically. That's under 3 times its opening weekend. That is terrible word of mouth. So essentially, people hated this film back then.
Understandable. I remember that this movie was bad. I kind of didn't remember just how bad it was. When the movie starts, I thought at first that they were on Krypton. I thought it was a flashback. I was like, hey, this Krypton looks very different from the Krypton that we saw in Superman 1. But no, it's not Krypton. It's Argo City. So it looks different, and that's fine. But they don't really explain what it is, where it is. They say it's in inner space. That means nothing. I don't know what that means. They don't talk about how they escaped from Krypton, how it's separate from Krypton, how they avoided Krypton's destruction. Zoltar knows about Superman being on Earth. That seems to be common knowledge in Argo City. How do they know that? If they know that they could go to Earth and have superpowers, you'd think maybe they would look into that? It's all very strange right out of the gate.
Peter O'Toole, Zoltar, he's kind of experimenting with this little small nugget of energy that, is the MacGuffin for this movie. It's basically the Infinity Stone that's powering this whole city, and somehow he just loses it, into like another dimension or galaxy or whatever.
Well, technically, Kara loses it, but he's playing with it.
Right.
So he invented the city, he invented the Omega Hedron, but he stole it so he can play with it and make art with it. And then he lets Kara play with it, and then she's the one who technically is responsible for it going out the window, which is why she follows after it. But it's definitely on him. Also, right out of the gate, we know that the Omega Hedron is very, very powerful, but it's more powerful when he uses this wand with it. And forgive me for being crass, but this wand just looks like a spinning dildo. It is a really weird looking device that he is motioning around while holding the ball in the other hand. And then later it comes into play where Nigel has a magic wand that makes the ball more powerful too. So I guess that's consistent, kind of, but it's very strange. The design on that dildo thing in the beginning is weird.
The big problem with this film is this awful emphasis on magic.
I can't really argue with you. I'm not really steeped in the Superman, Supergirl, DC Comics lore, but I do remember that magic did pop up on Smallville occasionally. From what I remember reading about at the time, it is not a totally foreign concept in the comics. And I think you could do it in a way that could be interesting in a Superman movie or a Supergirl movie. The problem is that the way it is constructed in this movie makes no goddamn sense.
Absolutely. The bigger problem is that they included witches in this film. You got these two kind of modern day American women, and then they get this unbelievable intergalactic power that should turn them into witches and magicians and turn them evil. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, sure. But the thing is, they seem to have started out that Faye Dunaway is a witch that practices witchcraft. And of all the places in the universe that this I'm going to call it a dodecahedron.
Omegahedron, but I like yours better. That's fine.
That it fell into the lap of kind of a failed witch.
Now I want to call it the dodecahedron. The dodecahedron falling and landing right in front of Selena. That is an incredible coincidence. And by incredible, I mean it is not credible. I'm using the word literally.
Right.
There will be many, many more of those, you know what, I'll just use a different word, bullshit coincidences throughout this movie. But I do think that Selena, when the movie starts, is a failed witch because she's with Nigel, who's, I guess, a quote-unquote warlock, but he also has a day job. He works at the school where Supergirl is going to end up. Another random coincidence. But he's like, oh, I practice magic. No, he doesn't. That's just what he says he does as like a hobby or something. Selena is a quote unquote witch. She lives in an abandoned amusement park. She is not successful. She's not making money from her witchcraft. She basically has no idea what she's doing. And then this thing lands in front of her and she takes it and then instantly has real actual magic. You know, she doesn't have to study it or learn about it. She's just doing crazy shit. And not for nothing, the Omegahedron on Argo City is a power source. A power source wouldn't necessarily be magic. And honestly, you could yada yada that with one line of exposition. The yellow sun transformed it.
Sure. I have to say that one thing I actually was a little surprised by, I kind of want to give credit to the, I don't know who to call it, the second unit director maybe, or the cinematographer, because there were a couple of very nice shots in this film. There were a couple silhouette shots of Supergirl against the sunset, which I thought were very nice. I thought that Supergirl's first flight, when she's discovering her powers, I thought was actually one really nice scene. I thought there were a lot of pretty things to see there.
That's fair. But I was very confused about where she was flying around because, yeah, I get it. She discovers that she can fly, and that's a very exciting thing. But she's over mountains and oceans and cities and forests, and I really just don't have a sense of geography. They say that it takes place in Illinois. You know, she flies around Chicago a little bit. I guess the school that she ends up at is in rural Illinois, which is also confusing, by the way, because the movie poster is her flying past the Statue of Liberty, and none of this movie takes place in New York / Metropolis, because in the Superman movies, Metropolis was New York City, and they didn't bother to hide that. But I was confused about where she was. Her flying style is also interesting because most of the time she's not vertical, you know, hand up, going straight up, nor is she horizontal, like just flying through the air in a way that you would think would be aerodynamic. A lot of the time she's kind of in between at like a diagonal kind of angle, which doesn't seem to make much sense to me. Like, that's not a way that I would think one would want to fly.
I just thought that the flying sequences just looked really bad in that you couldn't see the wires, but there was a point where Helen Slater's lifted up and then she just stays like suspended and then does a 360 in the air that you can tell she's being twirled around on that wire.
Right.
You know, I'm actually going to say one other thing that I think this movie nailed perfectly, and that's something very difficult to do in comic book films, especially DC films, and especially I think the Superman universe films. I think they nailed the costume perfectly. I think Helen Slater looks great. It doesn't look ridiculous, and I think it's also comic accurate.
I have no problems with the costume, but I don't understand how she gets the costume. It just appears while she's traveling from Argo City to Earth through inner space wormhole something.
She also jumps out of the water and has dry hair.
Sure. And then later in the movie, she jumps out of a window and she's in the costume, or she's walking through the trees and she gets a little bit more out of her costume into plain clothes with each tree she walks through. That also seems like magic.
Absolutely unclear and very poorly done. And I have a big question about Supergirl. Does she want to keep her whole existence a secret? I don't get it. It is incredibly inconsistent.
What do you mean?
Because at the very end of the film, she's basically asking two people not to say anything about that Supergirl exists at all. I know they also don't say anything about her identity, but like nobody can say anything about Supergirl. And it seems that so many people have seen her. And yes, you said it before, she flies by a city. And they almost laughably say on the radio, I don't know if you caught it,
oh, yeah,
that Superman is in another galaxy.
Yeah, on a peacekeeping mission. Honestly, they should have made that movie.
Right. There are so many things about that. Like in this universe, Superman can just travel to different galaxies. Just make it, he's on Jupiter. So again, does she want to be secret?
I don't know about that, but it did strike me that she goes after the Omega Hedron because that's the power source for Argo City. Without it, all the people in Argo City, everyone she loves, her parents, are going to die slowly. They're going to suffocate. And goddamn, does she forget about her search for the Omega Hedron really fast. She just wants to fly and see what she can do. And then she's enrolling as a student in this school. Don't you remember? Mom and Dad are losing air. They're going to die soon. We talked a few weeks ago about Masters of the Universe, which, by the way, has the same screenwriter, a guy named David Odell. And that movie is dog shit. But I will give that movie credit. When they get to Earth and they're looking for their MacGuffin, they keep looking for it. They understand the stakes, that this is important.
You know, I'm glad you brought up Masters of the Universe. And of course, we're talking about the 1987 film, not the latest one.
Yes, thank you for clarifying.
Masters of the Universe, we brought up that it was almost laughably a ripoff of Superman, John Williams kind of music. But to give it credit, I think it was a fairly competent ripoff. This score is trying so hard not to be the John Williams Superman, but almost like you put it through a ringer instead of just doing what, you know, so many other people have done for the Snyder universe and the James Gunn universe. Just make a new one. It just has to be heroic. That's it. And I think the score was awful in this film.
I didn't like it, but I did see that that was the one thing that was actually praised by critics at the time. People said the only good thing about this movie is the score. I agree with you, James. I'm just letting you know I saw that and I was like, that's the thing they liked, huh? Okay.
There's so much more to shit on this film. The whole like love story, going to class and stuff, like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
There is a scene in the girls' school that I have to talk about, and that is the shower scene.
Oh my God.
And the bully girls. They are like behind the wall, and they're going to use like a wrench to like, I don't know, maybe make the shower really cold or something.
No, to make it really hot. The other girl is saying, just make it cold and that'll be a funny prank. And the head bully is like, no, I want to watch them burn. It has to scald them.
Okay, fine. So Supergirl, of course, she can see through the walls, and she sees that they're about to do it. She uses her X-ray vision to go right on the girl's wrench, and so that overheats the wrench and burns her hand. So the bully herself, she's the one that gets burned.
Right.
Ha ha ha, she gets her comeuppance. But wait, the scene goes on from there, and the pipes burst, and the girl gets even more comeuppance. Both girls get totally soaked. Great, end scene. But no, the camera pans out longer, and you see behind them. Do you notice what sign is behind those girls?
Yeah, I saw it. High voltage.
So first, Supergirl almost killed these girls. And second, who the fuck puts all of the school's pipes running right by the high voltage tank? It's so weird.
It is. Also super weird, the fact that Linda, now she's Linda, that she's playing lacrosse or whatever game it is. Yo, your family, they're dying, remember? And then she's in class and her bracelet starts beeping, and the bracelet sometimes buzzes when the dodecahedron is nearby, and it's buzzing because Selena has driven by the school kind of for no reason. It's just for plot purposes because she's supposed to see Ethan and fall for him. But her bracelet starts beeping and she's like, oh, I need to go and check on the dodecahedron. And then the teacher, Nigel, Selena's boyfriend, is like, hey, where are you going? And she's like, oh, yeah, you're right. I'll stay in class. No, go, leave. It doesn't matter that the teacher's mad at you because remember, you're not an actual student. You just signed up to be a student for no reason. You're on a mission to save your people. Go save them. They're going to die.
You're absolutely right. And the problem is, I actually kind of don't mind this, fish out of water, she's on Earth, go to the school. But it's so easy to make her have to have a reason to even stay in class. Make it so that somehow this Lucy Lane knows where this thing is. Like she mentioned in passing, oh, there's this thing that crashed and she needs to get closer to her. She needs to get closer to somebody. There has to be a reason why she's doing it. And even, why she has to save their butts from getting scalded in the shower. It just makes no sense.
Sure.
There's a line when Kara is now dressed as Supergirl. She's getting back into the dorm or something. And like the headmistress or something goes, what the hell kind of lame outfit is that? Now, in Superman 1, the first time you see Christopher Reeve in the Superman outfit, a man clearly says, man, that's a bad outfit, before he flies off. Makes perfect sense. In the Man of Steel universe, they're all like, what the hell is that S? It's not an S. Like, that's a weird outfit you're wearing. But in this universe, we clearly have had Superman save the world several times. He's now on a peacekeeping mission to another galaxy. And here is a woman wearing basically the Christopher Reeve suit in a skirt using the exact same color scheme. And that woman is giving the same, like, what the hell crazy outfit are you wearing, young lady? It's probably the most popular outfit on planet Earth right now. That outfit, that's the one I'm wearing.
Yeah, but she's old, so she doesn't know stuff.
She didn't realize that when that huge earthquake, the missile launched and killed so many people in Hackensack, New Jersey, that like Superman saved the day. And like when those aliens blew up the White House and took over and Lex Luthor took over Australia, she doesn't remember that.
No.
Oh, okay. We'll go with that. One other part that makes absolutely no sense. The Ethan character. Mm-hmm. He is I believe the term is, he's a hunk.
Uh-huh. Did he look familiar to you from another movie?
No. What else has he been in?
He is Ellis from Die Hard.
Are you kidding me?
I am not. Same guy.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. 4 short years later, he is the douchey guy at Nakatomi Plaza.
He grows a beard, and he has one of the most epic roles in movie history. So good for him. I won't knock his acting at all. I'm talking about the character Ethan. Yeah. The character Ethan makes no sense. First of all, the first time we see him, he's a handyman. He's using a saw. How is he attired, Al, when we first see him sawing?
Oh, shirtless.
Of course he's shirtless and not protecting his eyes or anything. Even in 1984, I mean, they had to have known that.
Wear goggles when you're sawing so you don't get sawdust in your eyes?
Well, I mean, maybe wear a shirt. I don't know.
Sure. When Linda Lee, when she sees him, she thinks he's cute. Selena sees him and she's obsessed with him. And they really just force this love triangle thing. It doesn't make any sense in any way, shape, or form. Also, you kind of have to question the age thing because we don't know exactly how old Supergirl is, but she's at this school that seems to be a boarding school, like a high school. It's not a college, right?
It seems to be some kind of school, at least that has a dress code.
If there's a uniform, presumably she's in high school. And Ethan is an adult. He talks to Selena about how he has a business and he has a lot of repeat customers. So he's an adult. He's young for Selena, too old to be dating a high school student. And I'm not going to say this movie is progressive in any way, shape, or form, but it definitely passes the Bechdel test. It's got a lot of female characters who do things other than talk about boys, but then they force this love triangle thing. It's so dumb. It doesn't make any sense why Selena's obsessed with him. It's not part of her plot. She wants to take over the world.
Right.
Cool. Also, she just wants to hook up with this hunky guy. Hey, go get it, girl. But why? Why is she so singularly focused on it? And then that leads to Supergirl's battle against the construction equipment, which is such a dumb scene. It takes place in this town. Lucy Lane is on a date with Jimmy Olsen, also inappropriate age-wise. He's played by Mark McClure, the same guy from the other Superman movies. He's the only form of continuity between those movies. But he's an adult. He has a job working at the Daily Planet, and he's going out with a high school girl. He takes her on a fancy date to Popeyes. And listen, I love Popeyes as much as the next guy, but that's fucking weird. And then Ethan is under a love spell where he's going to fall in love with the first person he sees. For plot purposes, that has to be Supergirl. So he's just kind of wandering around with his eyes closed. I think it's an excavator, maybe, is the name of the construction equipment.
We need a 4-year-old to tell us definitively which one it is.
Yeah. I say excavator because I remember Eli when he went through his construction equipment phase.
Excavators are the coolest ones. That's what I know.
Yeah. It is driving around. It is destroying this town. Linda is doing nothing for a very, very long time. Linda being Supergirl. She has so many names. It's confusing. But Lucy Lane goes to help. She runs and jumps in the cab of the truck. And then, she pretty instantly gets knocked out, bumps her head or something. Eventually, Linda finally decides to spring into action. She runs past a waitress or an employee at Popeyes, and she says, "Sorry, I'm in a rush." And it's like, oh, well, glad that you're in a rush now. In one of the shots of the runaway excavator, it looks like it goes into a store and mows someone down. Like, it's definitely doing tons and tons of damage, presumably killing a lot of people before Supergirl decides to spring into action. Also, this scene has a jump cut as she's approaching the excavator, which is not a thing that should be in any major film, but it's there. She takes Ethan out of the mouth of the excavator, the claw thing, and then just completely forgets about her friend and roommate Lucy Lane, who's clearly concussed, lets her crash into some other building, and then Jimmy Olsen goes and checks on her and she's fine. But everything about that scene is so weird and just lame. It's really, really lame.
Yeah, that scene is terrible. I do want to go on this next battle scene that she has. Selena sends some kind of, I guess she can kind of change the weather, and she sends like a big lightning storm.
Or is it an invisible dragon? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's maybe some kind of dragon. I will say, I understand that this film does not have the budget of Superman 1 or 2 or even 3, but they keep using these kind of like 10-story tall creatures that look like they're basically doing a double exposure of a puppet in the background.
Yeah.
And they're insultingly bad for 1985, 84.
Yeah, I mean, when it first starts attacking, it kind of reminded me of The Nothing from The Neverending Story, which is convenient if you have a low budget because you don't actually need to show a monster, a creature, a bad guy. You can just have things breaking in its wake. I get it. But yeah, then you do see the silhouette of a dragony looking thing that she defeats by harnessing the power of lightning in a light pole and then aiming it at it, and then it goes away. It's another very lame scene when we're watching a Kryptonian super being. It should be cool, and it's very much the opposite of cool.
And again, knowing that this movie has a lower budget, I was thinking of things from the other films that you could really just show her superpowers. I mean, there's a great scene in Superman 1 with the mugging scene. Like, Kara could save people's lives. Kara could use her super strength. You know, there's little cutesy parts. There's a part when she has to get into the school, and the dean is like, you don't have a letter of recommendation. And while the dean leaves the room for 5 seconds, she uses a superpower to write a letter of recommendation in a keyboard. In a typewriter.
How does she know how to do that? That doesn't make any sense.
You know what? Fine, she does it. And like, just her demonstrations of her powers are so lame.
Yeah.
I just think that Supergirl in this film is actually incredibly weak. She's not supposed to be like Superman. She's supposed to be different than Superman. I just think she's just not interesting.
She's not. And speaking of lame, then there's the fight between Supergirl and Selena at the abandoned amusement park. And then there's bumper cars coming to life and attacking Ethan. Watching Supergirl fight off bumper cars. Come the fuck on. Then she flies Ethan to safety. And then they kiss because, you know, he's under this love spell. Or maybe by then Nigel has broken the spell because he lets the spider out of the nut, which is how the magic spell works. It probably doesn't make sense when I'm explaining it. It makes less sense in the movie. But she basically tells Ethan that she is the same person as Linda Lee. And that's kind of lame. She just landed on Earth and she reveals her secret identity to the first boy she kisses. Come on.
This movie just doesn't need a love story. It
No, it
really, really doesn't.
Agreed.
And Ethan, like, is just such a dumb character.
Right. Selena's able to use magic to send a coconut to hit him on the head, and that Supergirl is totally powerless to stop. She just couldn't see that coconut coming. It bonks him on the head, and then he goes down. Should we get to the Phantom Zone?
Yeah.
First off, it's weird that Selena knows about the Phantom Zone and knows how to trap people in the Phantom Zone.
There you go.
Then, as soon as she gets to the Phantom Zone, it's very obvious that she's going to meet Zoltar there.
But why is Zoltar there?
So Zoltar is there because he lost the Omegahedron, and so this is his punishment. Okay, he should be punished for being so cavalier with the Omegahedron. But here's the thing. Everyone in Argo City is going to suffocate to death. That is a slow, painful way to die. Meanwhile, here's Zoltar in the Phantom Zone. I get it that the Phantom Zone is supposed to be a hellish place, but he's alive. He has this drink that he keeps trying to give to Supergirl. Squirt, squirt, squirt. I mean, it seems like everyone in Argo City should have gone to the Phantom Zone as opposed to waiting to suffocate to death.
To be fair, that is the problem since Superman 1. It's like, wait a second, once you realize the planet is crashing, you don't have one of those spaceships that Jor-El made for Kal-El, but you guys have the Phantom Zone. Like, just jump in the Phantom Zone.
Right.
Like, it seems like you just threw those bad guys off like minutes before. Just do it again.
Right.
You know, it seems like they got the luckiest death sentence ever.
Yeah. And then Zoltar says that he's been there forever. And he will stay there forevermore. And it's like, well, no, didn't you just get there a couple days ago? Maybe a week ago? Maybe time works differently in inner space in the Phantom Zone or whatever, so shrug. But then when they go to escape, Selena from Earth is watching them, and she's able to send fireballs into the Phantom Zone, which seems like a stretch. How is she able to do that? How would she know how to do that? Then she's able to conjure another thing that's going to really mess up Supergirl when the fireballs don't hit her, and that's a tornado. But there was already a tornado before that, and so then she just sends the same tornado, a different tornado, a faster tornado. Who the fuck knows? But that's what kills Zoltar.
I think that's the best way of saying it. Who the fuck knows? And,
Yeah.
you know, when Zoltar falls down, does he die? Or is he just falling into infinite nothingness? Did they free Solo like a mile up? Like, is that the ground they used to be on? Like, there's so many things that are so weird here. And then the rest of the movie is basically like, yada, 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 Supergirl wins. And she also kills the two witches. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, the other witch being Bianca, who is Selena's roommate at the abandoned amusement park, who isn't that evil. I mean, she's definitely encouraging of all of the things that Selena's doing, but I would say Nigel is a worse character. Nigel gives her that extra evil magic wand. So why does Nigel get to walk away? Why does only Bianca die?
I'll tell you why, and I might be wrong with the timeline, but I was thinking the same thing. Like, oh, the henchwoman, she's not that bad. She even tries to escape later, realizing, I'm getting the hell out of here.
Right.
And at first I was thinking that, but earlier on, she's helping Selena and actually helping her, like, win against Supergirl, because she's like, they're coming. If you're going to do what you're going to do, you better do it quick. I don't think Nigel's doing that kind of stuff anymore. I think he's trapped in a cage by that point.
Yeah.
So did she deserve to die? Maybe not. I didn't think either. Well, no. I think Selena deserves to die because she directly causes Zoltar's death.
Sure.
And then what does she just like fly back into the pond and save the day?
Yes, because that's how she got from inner space to Earth. She comes up from the lake.
So that particular pond in Illinois is the connection between inner space
and Argo City? I guess. It doesn't make any sense. Also, I do want to just go back to the fight scene between Supergirl and Selena, because Selena uses this magic thing to make the floor that Supergirl is standing on shake and tumble, and it's kind of like turning into lava.
That would sure make you and I tumble a lot, right, Al?
Well, here's the thing. Supergirl can fly.
Right, exactly.
And she just kind of seems to forget. And then there's like the magic thing where Selena is like twisting her hands, and that's making the shadow demon twist Supergirl. I mean, the effects in the scene are terrible, by the way, but Supergirl's giving up until she hears Zoltar from beyond the grave saying, "You can do it, keep going." And then she's like, "Oh yeah, I'll keep fighting." And it's like, she needed inspiration from Zoltar then? Lame eye roll.
It was 100% Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Death Star Trench.
Right.
When Luke had kind of given up when Biggs is dead, and then, "Luke, let go, trust me."
Sure, but that makes sense in Star Wars because Luke and Obi-Wan have a connection.
No, it makes sense in Star Wars because he actually decides to do what Obi-Wan says and trust his instinct and not a computer. All Kara says is, "Okay, I will."
Right, I'll try harder.
This whole thing was, "Kara, you are strong enough to do it." And she goes, "Yes, I am. Raw."
But James, let me ask you, do you think that 1984 Supergirl stands the test of time?
No. I think the outfit, the costume was fine. I think Helen Slater herself was fine. I actually think that Lucy Lane, I like that actress, and that probably might be the only character in the entire film I liked. I thought she was kind of cool and had that same Margot Kidder, Lois Lane, like, I don't take shit from anyone. But holy shit, this was 2 hours. This is really bad. At least Superman 4 was not 2 hours. This movie is so bad. And there's very little redeeming qualities to it. This film does not stand the test of time. I'm really curious for you, Al. Does Supergirl 1984 stand the test of time?
No. Of course not. This is very, very bad. One thing we didn't really talk about, Supergirl's first interaction with people is two guys try to rape her. Obviously, she's superpowered. She's able to defend herself and fight them off. But think about the first humans that Clark Kent meets when he lands on Earth. It's Ma and Pa Kent, the nicest people ever. And then, of course, he's raised in Smallville, and yeah, he meets some jerks at Smallville High that bully him, but he sees the best in humanity, and that's why he wants to protect people. That's why he cares about people. The first people that Supergirl encounters try to assault her. Then she goes to this school. There's this mean bully who wants to scald everybody. There's Selena who's attacking her for no reason that she can tell right at the beginning. It's only because Ethan likes her. She doesn't understand why this witch is coming after her. It's easy to imagine that this character might think, fuck people, fuck humanity. I don't know what my cousin sees in these creatures. I want to get the hell out of here. These people aren't worth saving. That's an interesting angle. That would be something really interesting to explore. And of course, the movie does nothing with that. It is also worth mentioning that one of the guys who tries to rape Supergirl is wearing an A&W t-shirt.
You'd think A&W would be pissed off that someone like that is wearing it.
Right? Wouldn't you think that? That's not the kind of product placement that the good people at A&W would want?
You know who should have worn the A&W t-shirt, Al?
Who?
Literally any other character in the film.
Right, exactly. There's a lot of A&W, there's a lot of Popeyes. It's definitely weird that the rapist is wearing an A&W shirt. That doesn't make me think, I could really go for some root beer. But yeah, the story in this movie is just terrible. There's so many coincidences. Also, there's that scene early on where Selena has a party and she invites everyone to her place at the abandoned amusement park. She's all powerful, and Nigel or Bianca are saying, why are we having a party? And she's like, you don't understand. These people are going to do my evil bidding later. No, they don't. That's just completely dropped. Later, when Selena becomes the fascist dictator of this small town for some reason, it seems like she has control of an army, but it's not the people from the party before. It's just dudes in black masks. They could have brought those people back. Maybe they didn't want to. Maybe that would have been weird. So much of this movie is just cobbled together, thrown together. It doesn't make sense. It's terrible. It's interesting in the way that it doesn't make a big deal about the fact that it's a female superhero. Maybe because superhero movies weren't that big of a deal back in 1984. But compare that to Wonder Woman, and that movie kind of wore its feminism on its sleeve. I'm not saying that is a bad thing. It just kind of was letting you know that this is a big deal and this is a female-led story. Cool, great. This movie doesn't do that, which is maybe cool in its own way, but it just falls apart at the seams. It has no seams. It has no story. It has no structure. It has no stakes with their stupid MacGuffin, and it very much does not stand the test of time. But that's going to do it for us this week. Next week, I am very excited. We have a special guest coming back on the show. Our friend Clinton Festa is coming on the show to talk about Troy. In honor of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, we're going to be talking about Troy. It's a different story, but, Homer, the Iliad, Odyssey, you get it. I'm very much looking forward to having Clint back on the show. He is very excited to talk about Troy and share his knowledge of the Iliad with us. Until then, we want to hear from you guys. We are at Tested Time Pod, Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. Comment on YouTube, comment on Spotify, comment anywhere. I'll see it. I love hearing from you. Let us know your thoughts on Supergirl 1984, Supergirl 2026, Jimmy Olsen, witches, Omega Hedrons, inner space, whatever. We love hearing from you, and we'll see you next time, everybody.
Bye.